had to get a color-coded bracelet.
Yes, like the one I'm wearing.
Yes, and you know who else does that? It's the Mexican cartel. So,
thank you for your time, and let's go, Brandon. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining us on this. I don't even know what day it is anymore. Wednesday evening. There's a lot to talk about today. And thank you guys so much for logging in. Right now, we are currently going live on Facebook, Getter, and YouTube. So share, like, and share this video. Today, I have a special guest on, my friend Victor Avila, who is joining us. He is a former special agent for HSI and ICE, and we are going to be discussing Title 42. Of course, you guys have probably heard about this. I did some previous lives talking about this, and also with Peter Perez. So I just want to dive right into it because the matter is pressing. So let me please welcome in Victor. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. Great to be with you.
Thank you. So, I don't even know where to start, honestly. I mean, like, I know where to start, but, I've talked about the ending of Title 42. Of course, we were all, this was a possibility all last year. We were kind of able, I think, because of all the noise, to kind of hold that back a little bit. The flood of the massive invasion that has been going on at our southern border, because that's really what it is. Okay. And we'll go into that and defining that and the big news, the action item, and putting the pressure, hopefully, on Paxton to define it just as that. So this way Texas can have more constitutional abilities to combat this. But what's coming with the lifting of Title 42, it's going to make last fiscal year look like breakfast. I don't know how else to put that. But more importantly, one of the other things I know right now, a lot of the people that have been talking about Title 42 have also been talking about, like, just the massive amounts of numbers, right? So I want to go into that a little bit of what's projected or what could be coming once that is lifted, what's already starting to pour over even more. They're just so consumed, I know, especially right now in the Del Rio sector, but also the national security risk. Victor, you talk about all the time on how border security is national security. And what I don't think that people think about, with this massive influx of people coming over with Title 42, potentially coming over with Title 42 being lifted, what does that mean? National security has already been pushed to the back burner, but what does that even look like as far as, like, the national security risk that are very real? So that's what I'm hoping to kind of go into tonight and discuss with you. I couldn't think of anybody else better to talk about that than you. So thank you so much.
And let's, like you said, let's dive into it because, as you know, I will tell you the truth. And the big thing about Title 42 is that it's in effect right now. It has been in effect for over a year, yet we're going to hit 1 million illegal aliens in 6 months. This is from fiscal year. For those of you who don't know, don't mean to insult you, but in the government, they count the fiscal years from October to October. This past fiscal year, the one that we're in right now, in October, will hit 1 million people illegally into this country, and Title 42 is in effect. So I just want you to know that and clear that up, because no one is saying that. A lot of the news networks are trying to talk about Title 42, that, oh, it's going to get lifted. Yes, we're going to see more, and there's going to be an influx of more, but it hasn't been implemented throughout this whole time. And that's, I want people to understand. If in fact it was implemented like the way it was under the Trump administration, then about 80% of the individuals coming in here illegally were returned back. at the line at the river. And right now, they're possibly about 20% are being held back. So imagine it'd be a million, 1.2 million if it weren't in effect at all. So the Biden administration has ignored all policies, has ignored all immigration law since last year, January 20th. And you and I have been at the border numerous times. And I've gone, just last month was our last stop in Laredo. And every single time that we go, it gets worse. So will it get worse when the Title 42 gets lifted? Yes, because now add the 20% or 30% that they have been holding back. So that's an additional. Now, right now in Mexico, as you heard, we have 70 plus thousand that have been down in the Tapachula area wanting to come. Mexico has, they're playing a lot of games over there, and they're trying to detain them. They're not. They're giving them this immigration pass that even when I work there, it's still the same 30-day get out of my country pass that Mexico gives you, a quote unquote visa to be in the United States, but to get out. There's no repatriation from Mexico, which is completely absurd to me, that Mexico is not sending anyone that is illegally present in their own country, sending them back to Brazil, China, Venezuela, Central America, and Ukraine, Russia, which are starting to see. And so that's the big deal with Title 42. Fauci is now talking about, well, we might have to go into some more restrictions, blah, 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 because they want to continue to do this containment. Well, if that's the case, then Title 42 continues, because Title 42 is for the pandemic, to control any kind of diseases or outbreaks that come from other countries. So we have the reason to do it is to keep it in place. And I hope that the Biden administration does so. It will help a little bit. But let me tell you, I wish it would be implemented, and I wish it would be enforced to the fullest extent of our own law, because this is another thing that's now going into part 2 of this. They're starting to, the Biden administration is also, at the same time that they thinking of getting rid of Title 42, they are now also trying to interpret asylum laws.
Right.
And I don't know if you heard about that.
I did, and I have some articles about that. I wanted to show you this right here, and I don't know if you can see it, Victor, but basically what I have up here is what was sent to me the last time I just got back from the Del Rio sector. Gosh, like last week or the week before. I don't know. It all runs in together, but this is kind of what you're talking about. Now, of course, it kind of looks a little bit different. And when people hear Oscar Blue talk about the Institute of National of Immigration or of Migration, this one right here, this gentleman came into Eagle Pass and he missed his court date because it was scheduled for later on. Gosh, I don't even remember the dates on here, but it was scheduled for like the 29th, and he was already here in the States. So I just wanted to show that, and I've shown the audience before kind of what that looks like. And then they're going back to the smaller cards right now. I've seen a lot of those coming back now because they're just trying to push him out there. But going back also to what you were referring to about, like, so let's backtrack for just a second. The Del Rio sector, which I've spent a lot more time in more recently, their numbers alone through February 28th, so that's not even including anything that they've seen this month, 153,271, according to their numbers. And that, for any Border Patrol agent that I've ever spoken to, that I talked to, they're like, that's 20 to 30% on a good day. And that is just in that one sector. We have 5, and that's just since October. That's the beginning of the fiscal year. There's no way to
sustain.
There's just not. There's not.
And I'll add to that. First of all, you and I know Del Rio well, and it's not a bustling industrialized city. And so it doesn't have the resources. Gosh, it doesn't even have an official bus station. Right now, they're releasing people, illegal aliens, to the street in Eagle Pass, in Del Rio, Texas, and all these regions, because the capacity is overflowing. So what they're doing, this is all Border Patrol, by the way, because I'm a big news junkie and I watch the news a lot. I watch a lot of the Mexican news and I watch a lot of the Spanish speaking news because I want to get all the angles of what people are saying. And a lot of people mention ICE. By the way, ICE is never involved here. Let's get this clear. I have something to say about that a little bit later, but ICE right here is nowhere to be seen because that's not their jurisdiction. This is Border Patrol. It's under Customs and Border Protection, and Border Patrol facilities are overrun. This is the facility where they encounter them, process them, and then release them. Well, now they're releasing them literally to the street. They're walking. They have nowhere to eat, nowhere to go sleep, nowhere to live, nowhere to eat. They're looking for money to get on a bus or an airplane to make it into the interior of the country. This is the situation that I know you and I are going to focus a lot, I know, on national security and public safety, because every single day I get another news bit about an illegal alien committing another crime, a serious crime here in the United States of America against a United States citizen, or the attempt of a convicted illegal alien, sex offender, drug offender, violent offender trying to come back that was detected, that we know about. So imagine all those that we don't. So these are the individuals that are coming here. And I'm saying this until I'm blue in the face, that by the time you become a victim at the hands of an illegal alien, it's too late. You will have no recourse at that time. The time to act is now, because we don't want you to be the victim of the 13-year-old in St. Paul, Minnesota, a few weeks ago, that was being raped in her own bedroom, and her parents had to pry the illegal alien off of her. This is reality that's happening in our country.
And to your point, in just this month alone, Victor, in just the Del Rio sector alone, the Border Patrol, according to their stats, which they have posted on social media, I went back and I counted. They've had 6 child sex offenders. 6 in just like literally under 30 days that they've caught, and 4 first-degree convicted murderers. One of the victims of the convicted murderers was an 8-month-old baby. So this is just in one place. This is just in what I see when I see these articles, or when I see these posting. Oh, we caught another gang member, which RGV sector just caught 5 more MS-13 gang members just a few days ago. What I see when I see that, because of all of this going to the border, and because of the knowledge that I've gained from people like yourself, I don't see what was caught. I see what was not caught. I see just the massive amounts that we will never know about until they end up in our child's bedroom, like that situation.
And I'll give you the perfect example. Fentanyl. We have seen, and even methamphetamine. And I'll tell you right now, I'm more concerned with the meth, and I'm going to tell you why. Even though fentanyl is a serious and over 100,000 deaths, but what you just said, this is a perfect example. We see the spiking numbers of apprehensions, of detection, of seizures of fentanyl and methamphetamine, and everybody starts clapping. And then you see the press releases and, oh, we're grabbing all this. That is the worst. People don't understand. And I tell you from experience, when we saw the seizures go up like that, and we got 90, imagine 90 pounds of meth. That's a lot. 100 and some thousand pills of meth, of fentanyl pills. That is horrific, because that means when the seizures go up, that means that we are getting drowned with the drugs. I tell you, because I worked on the border most of my career, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. When we didn't see the seizures, that means that we were holding them back. But when we started getting the seizures, everybody started celebrating, but it's actually a reverse effect. That means that it's coming through without any control. And that's why I've talked to almost the big major police departments in Texas. I was in Colorado. I just came back from Montana. Methamphetamine is the biggest problem in Virginia, because it is directly related to a lot of crime. people on meth get crazy. They're highly addicted. They'll do anything. They'll carjack you. They'll burglarize you. They'll rob you. They'll do whatever they can to get money, to get their hands on that meth.
Or be
That
willing to be sold into sex trafficking. It's all
human
tied
trafficking.
together.
Absolutely. The girls, all that tied to. Thanks for naming and mentioning the human trafficking. That is out of control. So all of that network is, the drugs are in there, and the police in Montana, where there's more animals than people, have the highest rates of homicide that they've ever seen this past year. This is where you would normally not see this. The cartels are present there now, and this is what I think you and I want to be able to share to the public, that this is a public safety issue, because you can be a victim of at the hands of one of these cartel members or meth addicts. That it could be anywhere, even where I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have a high problem of meth in downtown areas, and it's all due to the open border, because of the smuggling, because of the human trafficking, because of the illegal immigration. Now, something that I didn't see in my career was that now they're sending some of these illegal alien groups with drugs. Before, it was just the human smuggling. Now the cartels are like, all right, you're going to get crossed. Strap on pills.
It's part of that payment that they have to pay. Part of the wristbands. And did you see this? And this is where we talk this is why I hashtag so much. Every town is a border town. They are not staying at the border. They're coming here. Tarrant County was number 3, I believe, of where unaccompanied minors have been sent to. There's a lot of illegals right here sent to Tarrant County. Tarrant County from last June was up 50% of fentanyl related overdose deaths. But did you see, and I don't know, this new in Florida, they've been talking about it. The new synthetic opioid that is deadlier than fentanyl that is starting to come over. Are you familiar with this? ISO is what it's called. I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, I heard it under a different name. It's going by different names. And this is the dangers of China, because China, people, what does China have to do with this? China has a lot to do with this, because they're an enemy of the state, they're an enemy of our country, and they are the ones working hand in hand with the cartels who are making this stuff in Mexico. Over 100 super labs of meth, of pill mills. I have the videos where the M30s and the more China provides the precursors and the chemicals, it's all synthetic, it's all man-made. And a lot of it is being also mixed into cocaine, marijuana, heroin. And so you see this massive overdoses and highly, highly addictive drugs. And so it is, we could talk about the cartels all day, but how they're related directly to a lot of these homicides. And I've done a couple of conferences where some of these cities are charging these deaths to these cartel members, or even gang members that are affiliated with the cartels, with homicide, because they willingly gave them this fentanyl that they don't know if they know it's going to kill them, but they're not telling them anything. So, some people are waking up, and these prosecutors in very, very few towns, but it's starting to, because it is a real concern throughout the whole country.
So right now, of course, they're what I thought was interesting, and going back to what you said the other just a little bit ago about the them dropping them off into the small cities down there. I had Peter Perez on that the last live that I did. He is a resident and an activist over there in Carrizo Springs, and that's of course one of the communities that they're dropping off these massive amounts of illegals, just dumping them. And to Uvalde, they were trying to find a way to push back and get them to not do that, but it happened in Del Rio, and then of course, they're dropping them off there, which is an immediate concern, safety concern for the Texans, right, that live right there. But then they're busing them out. The NGOs are then busing them out to San Antonio, to DFW, our area, to Houston, to Austin, and then flying them out throughout the rest of the country. Because again, it's like I think one of the most frustrating things for me personally this entire time has been it's hidden in plain sight. Like in the Metroplex areas, it's hidden in plain sight. People are not aware of how it greatly impacts us with the gangs, how the gangs are now working together with the cartel. And of course, how many of these cartel have now teamed up to work along the border because they knew that this was coming. And this is the prime time for them to just they're already making $100 million. What is it, a week or something like that?
Yeah, they're making a tremendous amount of money, and you're absolutely right on the cartels with the gangs. And I worked this in my career. They've been doing it for a long time. The cartels. The difference now is that it has only just grown to where these gangs that exist in Houston, El Paso, Dallas, Chicago, New York, St. Louis, Baltimore. I could go down the list. They're working directly with the cartels. The cartels oversee everything. Cartel are present in these cities that I mentioned throughout the whole country, LA, everywhere else, Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, everywhere. But the cartels are there overseeing the merchandise be sold, overseeing the human trafficking, making sure that everything, because it's still it's the cartel's product. Now, you might say, well, the Black Gangster Disciples, the Latin Kings, and all these other gangs, the 18th Street Gang, they're kind of independent on their own, and they kind of are. They have their own hierarchy, they have their own constitutions, MS-13, but ultimately they answer to the cartels because it's the product of the cartels that they are selling. And so everybody's making money, but this is how much powerful it makes the cartels, because they're not only just present in our country, but in 40 countries around the world. And I want people to understand these cartels are a global network of a crime syndicate. I don't know how else to say it. I always compare them in my speeches to Amazon. I say, if you want to think of the cartel, think of them as Amazon. Highly sophisticated, networking, distribution centers, and billions of dollars. And think of them as a corporation rather than the difference between the cartel and Amazon is cartel, treats business a little differently with violence. And that's how they get things done. But what's happening in Mexico, we have to continue. I pay attention to it on a daily basis. I still have my sources and I get the information, because what's happening in Mexico is a direct result of what we're going to see over here. Not just illegal immigration, but we took down the Cartel de Noreste, the head of the CDN just last week. And there's firefights on the other side of Laredo. And I just talked to a friend of mine that's in Laredo yesterday, and he could hear the gunshots. He's 4 miles away during the day, at night. And this is the instability of Mexico that directly affects us here. With violence, with everything that you can imagine, it's affecting us here. Texas for sure, Arizona for sure. And I know you want to talk about what you're doing, because you're doing some wonderful work that I support 100%, because we must do something, because no one's doing anything, Sheena.
Yes. So right here, and I have, so this right here, what I did, this was an article that was hold on, sorry. My audience knows I'm a little new to this technology thing, but I'm getting better, y'all. Okay, I'm getting better. This right here, of course, the Biden officials are bracing for unprecedented strains. They know what's happening. They know what they're doing. Oscar Blue, recently, 6 days ago, when he spoke to one of the heads of the caravans down there, you can go back and watch his live. The audience could go back and watch his live video, where he's the NGO leader of the caravan is saying this is going to be a disaster if Title 42 gets lifted, and goes on to say on how they are anticipating there is 5 to 6 million ready, like, to pounce on this opportunity coming through Central and South America. Of course, what's most frightening to me is not just the sheer numbers, but also what else they're going to be able to flood through if that were to happen. It is a huge humanitarian crisis, because from Central and South America, CIS, Todd Bensman, and through CIS a few months back did a whole hearing on the Darien Gap and on how many people die and are just savagely raped, how many children die going through this Darien Gap. And that's where a lot of these migrants, because until they cross our borders illegally, I consider them migrants. That's the term that I use, but are going to end up, they're being incentivized to come. They're going to end up like dying. There's no way to nobody's ever going to hear their screams.
No.
Nobody on the left cares.
No.
And those who are complacent with this here in the United States, they're never going to know about those people who have died along the way, trying to take advantage of what our government is saying. Come now. Now's the time to come. And they've been telling them this entire time. So the potential 5 to 6 million on the way, in the addition to the 70,000. Todd Bensman went on to talk about the ANT program and the ANT operation, and how they were like, instead of having a massive event like Del Rio under the bridge in Del Rio with the Haitian invasion that happens, they're sending them here, they're sending them there. That's pretty much out the window. But another thing that I saw here was that, you talked about ICE earlier, and obviously that's given that's your area, right? I would really love to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit more about this. Biden moving to cut ICE detention. So he's moving to defund the ICE even more. But yet he is sending millions, requesting millions, $12 billion. I apologize, not millions, $12 billion more to fast track the asylum seekers and the backlog of the HB1 visas, and the legal immigration, what people would call legal immigration, but then also to send DHS back up through the Pentagon because they know that this massive wave is about to come. And so simultaneously, though, I guess they're going to be using some of that money from the ICE budget.
People always wonder, where's the money coming from? Who's providing the money? We are. Our own government has our own State Department. And let me tell you really quick here what's going on here. All these efforts, FEMA is going down to the border. Why is FEMA? FEMA deals in natural disasters. Well, because they're expecting a natural disaster. But here's what it's upside down and backwards, is that they're doing all of these things not to stop it, Sheena, but to deal with it, to accept it, and then somehow process it and then let them in. This is completely craziness. I don't know what other word to use here. It's nuts that all these resources, all this money, like the ICE enforcement, for example, they said it and they told us very early on, we want to defund and abolish ICE. And they have basically done it. Now, two things. The one that we're talking about here is ICE ERO, Enforcement Removal Operations, which is the interior enforcement of ICE. These are the ICE officers that look for the gang members, look for the convicted sex offenders, look for people to deport, and also are the ones that take care of the camps and do the repatriation flights and all that. Their hands have been tied for all this time. I have friends that work there. They're not doing their worksite enforcement. They're not going after sex offenders because Biden has told them through the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, you are not to touch these individuals. You are to leave them alone. Sometimes, and you add the sanctuary city policies in a lot of these Democratic cities, that doesn't help when they get one of these in custody and then they're like, well, we got one, let them go. Because call ICE, it doesn't matter. ICE is not going to take them. This is the reality that's happening, where you have people committing crimes. They are entering the criminal justice system. We're not saying go after the poor migrant that came here, has no criminal history, only came here to work. We're not even talking about that. I'm talking about the criminal, illegal alien, which is one too many. And unfortunately, the other one also suffers because they can't, they get mixed in all this as well. So that's a big problem. Now, let me talk about the other part of where I worked as HSI, is Homeland Security Investigations. So these are the investigators investigating the arms trafficking, the human trafficking, the human smuggling. They are now being pulled from their duties as criminal investigators to go help on the border to support. Because and what does that happen is, if you have a case here, well, we don't have an agent to work it because they're down at the border. We don't have DPS troopers in Midland, Odessa area patrolling and looking for DUI because they're down at the border. So yes, it is a ripple effect throughout a lot of law enforcement agencies, especially in Texas, because we have a high presence of DPS troopers that are not from that area, and they have left their area, that they support the local sheriffs, they support the small police departments in our rural parts of Texas, and all of a sudden they're gone. Guess what those police departments and those communities are facing? They don't have enough manpower, and so I-20, I-35, I-10, they're a free-for-all because you don't have DPS patrolling where you usually would, because they're all down there.
And I remember, when I was down there during the Del Rio Summit that Governor Abbott held, meeting so many of these sheriffs. One of them was Sheriff Wigington from Throckmorton County, and this is a very small rural area. And he's actually, it's about, Throckmorton County is about an hour away or so from our area here. And he was saying, like, they were very upset because they rely on DPS. This is also a major drug corridor because they get it from El Paso, the El Paso area, coming in from over there, and they rely on the DPS. So when Operation Lone Star started and the DPS were moved from all over the state of Texas, down there to help, it left these other areas vulnerable. Same thing, Jim Wells County. I did an interview with a woman that lives down there in Jim Wells County. And that was an old drug gang corridor that was shut down effectively under President Trump, that was reopened now. And now that it's right over there near Alice. This is, again, a rural county that they're ready. They have like one constable who works a full-time job and is constable part-time. You have places like in Cleveland out there in East Texas, that they just now had to open up an actual police department. Prior to that, because of the drugs and the gangs in this rural area, prior to that, they only had the sheriff's department. Where is this money coming from? The gangs and the violence and the drugs that are pouring into this community. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. And so to your point, now, one of the things, let's see here. One of the things that is, again, this whole time, as we were doing these border awareness events all last year, and I was going out there into Austin. I'll be in Austin next week, Monday and Tuesday. I will be there to listen to the Texas Senate Border Security Committee hearings going on. I want to be there in the room where it happens and see what they have to say. I'm really excited about that. But, people feel like, well, what can we do? Right? Like, what can we do? What can we do about it? Immigration is a federal issue. With what you just said, Tarrant County has, with what you just said earlier about the violence and the gangs and the drugs that we know that are already here as a consequence of the border invasion, but also that are on the way, because it's inevitable. Whether this gets passed or Title 42 gets lifted on the 1st, or if they wait even a little while longer after that, it's going to happen. And when that happens, it's not just the sheer number of people. It's the gang members, it's the drugs, it's everything that is coming to our city, to our county, all throughout the United States as well. But what can we do about it? And that's what I focused on. Here in Tarrant County, we have the 287G program. That's one way that, we could fortify that. And that's one of my legislative priorities. The state of Florida just presented legislation to expand that program, the E-Verify system. There's so many things here legislatively that could be done on the city, county, and state level constitutionally and legally. So those are the things, of course, that I'm going to be pushing for. But right now, we those who follow me on Facebook and Getter, you guys probably saw me put out that action item to put pressure to encourage Attorney General Paxton to define the AG in Arizona has already done this, defining what is going on, releasing an opinion as an act of invasion, and it invokes certain clauses constitutionally that allows the states at that point to do even more without the requirement of or the approval of the federal government.
Thank you, Sheena, for that, because that's a call to action right there. People always say, what do I do? What do I do? Sheena is a doer, and I'm thinking about going with you on Monday and Tuesday. I'm thinking about it because that's where we need to confront our elected officials. So let me tell you really first. Let me start with this. What's happening at the state level right now, and I just saw before I came on, I was watching the news, and Governor Abbott is talking about we're securing the border. No, you're not. No, you're not securing the border, because if you were securing the border, we wouldn't have this conversation. The numbers wouldn't be what they are. Having DPS troopers and having sheriffs and having the National Guard at the river and on our border from El Paso to Brownsville is doing nothing for border security. Yes, listen to me. Nothing for border security. It's great law enforcement. Oh, let me tell you, I support them. They're 100% great in doing law enforcement, but it's law enforcement when they are already here. And that defeats the purpose. Border security is on the line. Border security is on the river. Border security is at the ports of entry, not in Laredo, Texas, or in Kinney County, or these counties where you have a smuggler go through the checkpoint and get a border patrol on a chase, and then border patrol stops, DPS follows, and the smuggler shoots a DPS trooper. That happened 10 days ago, and then we shoot the driver. This is what's happening down there. We got shootouts happening between smugglers. In Laredo alone, 200 stash houses. But why is there 200 stash houses in Laredo? Because we've allowed them in. Now, we identify them, we take down the stash houses, but what happens? We process the individuals, and those that we send back, and those that we allow in. Most of them are being allowed in. This is what I want people to know, that unless the state of Texas, and you said it in your letter that you sent me right now, that last paragraph, and I agree with it 100%, and I will use a different word, unless the state and our elected officials have the cojones to do it, they have. And first of all is declaring this an invasion, which is clearly an invasion. If you look at what's happening in Europe and Ukraine, we've been going through this. We have over 100,000 deaths of fentanyl overdoses directly linked to Cartel Jalisco New Generation, Sinaloa Cartel, the Gulf Cartel, Los Zetas. And that's not an invasion. Those deaths are not attributed to them. They're the ones that brought it in. And so it's the mindset that we need to change here of the people, that for some reason that if Russia does it to Ukraine, we're going to send, and I have it here, $15 billion, but we won't send any money to secure our own border. Now, we did send $150 million a couple of weeks ago to Mexico. And we told Mexico, here's $150 million, because we're always giving the money, but you can't use that for your military, for border enforcement. That was our condition, the United States, the Biden administration.
Wow. I had not seen that. Wow.
Yeah, this is crazy. 8 journalists have been killed in Mexico. 8.
I saw that.
And the reason why I bring that up is because I want people to understand the status of the country of Mexico. Nowhere in the world, nowhere have they killed 8 journalists in between January and now, before even April. It's the most dangerous country in the world for journalists to work. As a matter of fact, Mexico has the top of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the world. Mexico has the top 5. I mean, that's how bad it is. We have,
and there was just another article released today that that there was a cartel member dressed in a police uniform that threatened to, there was a female news reporter, just journalist, just trying to do her job, just trying to get the information out there. And they forced the group of journalists to remove all of their footage and threatened to light them all on fire. That was just reported today.
Yeah, 20 killed this past Sunday in a cockfight in the state of Michoacan, one of the most dangerous cities in the world. There's a lot of illegal cockfighting going on here in states in New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. And horse racing, this is what these guys do. Pay attention, see it's in plain sight. You see it, you have to report it, because these individuals are more than likely connected to criminal organizations. Del Rio and Eagle Pass obviously continue to hit. I wrote here that about 520 unaccompanied children per day are still coming up to the border. So if you think that the unaccompanied children problem has gone away, it hasn't, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, it has even gotten better, because now they keep to exploit them and traffic them even easier now, because now the Biden administration doesn't want them to build up in these facilities. Let them go to wherever they want. Well, we have a sponsor. We don't even know anything about the sponsor. We don't have any vetting of that sponsor in Chicago, LA, wherever they're going, Miami. And then we let them go. I myself boarded an airplane with at least 12 adult individuals, all with children around 2 to 4 years of age. These were not their parents. Only adult, no women, no mothers in sight. And I questioned them. They sat them next to me, and I saw their paperwork, and I questioned them, and I knew, and that's my expertise. I mean, that's what I did for a living. And I didn't care about the illegal alien anymore. I was concerned about the children.
Yep. And to your point, last weekend alone in just Del Rio, there was another 71 unaccompanied children. There was a 5-year-old that just crossed over too. They had no documents, no contacts, no nothing. And that was one of the questions that I've asked, and I'm hoping to get a FOIA request out there, is a follow-up on the unaccompanied minors that the Biden regime has lost track of through these vetting, through the unaccompanied through these sponsors. And both, actually, a lot of people are not aware of this, but actually both left and right-wing organizations who do actually care, even though we may not agree, right, on 99% of the things, they've been raising the alarm, saying that HHS and ORR are not following the proper protocols of vetting. And right here, and I go back to it because we're right here in Tarrant County, HHS has not updated their, I just checked today. I went and actually met with me and a friend of mine. We had a meeting with a Fort Worth trustee, ISD trustee this morning. I'm talking about exactly this because my concern is the children. They have not updated the numbers, but over 3,000 since November, over 3,000 were sent right here to Tarrant County. That means and DFW is number one for sex trafficking. In 2014, I was reading, because I'm working on trying to find a way that we can legally and constitutionally try to go, and you know this because I reached out to you as well about how can we go after and declare the cartel and their affiliates and the affiliated gangs as domestic terrorists here in the state of Texas. One of the ways that from what I've been reading, Todd said state statute. That's one of the things that he tried to push when back in 2019. So that's what I'm investigating, and that's one of the hopefully the ways that we can go after this, because the sex trafficking in DFW right now, we're number one. We go back and forth between here and Houston. The unaccompanied minors, I don't care who you are. And it's not just the unaccompanied minors, right? It's also the children that are coming over with these family members that are willing to put their children's life at risk. And I have so many times, and I've talked about it before. Those who watch me know I get very passionate about it. Just the last time down there at Eagle Pass, I watched as the river was extremely high because Mexico released the water in the dam. There was over 12 people that were just pulled out of the river within 24 or 48 hours there. And this was the same place that another. I talked to one of the agents that found the body of the 4-year-old little girl that was washed up. Nobody cares about what's going on. Those who I'm sorry, I just get so angry because it
share.
is the children. And this is something that is not a partisan issue. Shut down the border, secure it, because in 2014, people can look this up themselves and see the sex trafficking assessment that was done here in the state of Texas. And one of the things that is mentioned over and over and over again is illegal aliens. They just had a bust right here in Dallas, where it was Honduras and Guatemalan women. You know, if you truly care about these illegal aliens, it is the minority communities that are hit the worst with the drugs. It is the minority communities that are hit the worst, because this is the schools that they're sending them to that are already, they can't even read and write, but yet they're going to send them an influx there. It's so infuriating because it should not be a partisan issue. And there are things that can be done. And Governor Abbott said that he was going to start implementing the turn back program. Victor, you remember all last year. I mean, we were out there, we were pushing so many people in the grassroots. I was out there if I wasn't at the border, I was there in Austin delivering these letters saying, you can do this, do that. Not one thing got passed, not one. And one of the things that he mentioned in the Turn Back Program initiative that was released in Breitbart was the National Guard being used and deployed into the rivers to stop them in the rivers. That's a novel concept. The Cajun Navy offered to do that months ago.
But they don't have the courage to do it. They don't have the courage to do it. And everything that you're mentioning, you're spot on, especially when it comes to the children. It makes no sense. So kind of like remember I told you the comparison, when you see the seizures go up, it's not a good thing. It means that a lot of it's coming through. The same thing is happening with the unaccompanied children. Just because the media goes away doesn't mean that stops. And because there hasn't been any. I started seeing a little bit more today and this week reporting on the border, because of Title 42 kind of hit the media, and they're starting to talk about it. But I share your frustration. The left says this. The left always says, an open border, everybody will be safe, and everything's going to be fine. No, it's actually what's happening right now, because we have an open border right now. It's actually more dangerous for the illegal alien and migrant to come in here. It's actually a lot of the people that I see a lot of the Mexican news, and they complain that some of them that did get sent back to Ciudad Juarez, Laredo, other sides, they're complaining that they got deported. And the word is not deported. It's not a correct word. It's just returned or voluntary returned. That they complain that they got returned to Mexico because it's very dangerous there. And I'm thinking, well, oh my goodness, no one put you there. Yeah. You put yourself there. And as a matter of fact, not only did you put yourself there, you brought the children with you. And exactly. Sometimes you voluntarily gave your own children to the cartel, which is mind-boggling to me. And I don't want to hear the excuse that, well, these people are desperate. Listen, no one was raping them. No one was, they were not being victims of crime. Yes, they're poor. Yes, they don't have any economic advantage, education, and all these problems from their country, which I think the burden should be placed on those countries.
Yep.
But somehow the burden has been placed on us. And if we don't take them, we're the bad guys. But we have major problems in our country with crime, crime surge. We have a lot of other issues with the wokeness that's going on in our country. They want to change everything. They want to Disneyland's changing. Everything's changing. And the border is a symbol of sovereignty. It's a symbol of that this country, because if you would just turn around and look the other way, Mexico claims that sovereignty all the time. They shove it in our face. We're a sovereign country. Leave us alone. Really? Well, you know what? What about ours? We need to start caring about our sovereignty. And I don't use that word lightly. Look up what sovereignty means. And it means protection of our land. It means no invasion of people that are foreigners from this country. And yet in our country, we're the most racist country in the world. And then why are all these people?
Why are they coming?
Why are they coming that are?
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of really people coming over who are extremely racist, because I have a whole lot of their IDs and their voter registration IDs with fingerprints and photo IDs. So these are the type of racist people that are pouring over to our country. And I think that the left needs to scream to secure the border and shut it down because these people believe in voter IDs. I'm
Yes.
sorry.
They in Mexico, and I tell you because I worked there, and in Europe as well, I worked there. You get one at the age of 18. That's it. No questions that you must have one. That, as a matter of fact, is the voter ID is used as a national ID.
Mhm.
Everybody, you don't have one, you don't get anything. You don't get your phone connected. You don't get internet service. You don't get any kind of service. You don't get water, so nothing. Everything you got to show for any kind of service is that electoral card, which is also serves as a national ID. And you absolutely has your thumbprint and all that. And they're okay with it. And
Yeah,
it's fine
novel
because it
concept.
identifies it. Right. But here, how could you? We can't drive? We have cars. But I share the I'm very focused with you on the state.
Mhm.
Because yes, I got this question as I was running for Texas Commissioner so many times.
Yep.
Can the state do anything? Absolutely.
We can do a
They
lot.
thought I was going to hesitate. Well, I don't hesitate like the elected officials do, because the state reps and the state officials, elected officials, say, well, that's a federal immigration problem.
That's
And
their
then
cop out.
and then the Republicans say, well, we're not in power. It's the Democrats, and we can't do anything about it. Listen, we have a lot of resources here, and unfortunately, sometimes we're fighting against our own party to get some of these things done. But I don't know what it is that I have a feeling that if I go to Austin, I'm gonna get kicked out because I would want to voice exactly what I'm telling you now and telling your audience the same thing as an expert in some of these things. That listen, I'm not just making this up. I paid in blood and sweat and tears.
Literally.
I lost my partner, and I know I've stared evil in his eyes. I've been there, and I'm thank God I'm here, and I want to be able to do something about it and help, because this is not going to end up good in the next 30 to 45 days. You'll see. You talk about the 15,000 Asians. And it's Arizona too. Don't forget Arizona. Arizona is, oh my goodness.
But you know, at this point, like when you talk about the sovereignty, we have to go back to state sovereignty. If we've got 3 more years of this at best. Okay. And if we are going to survive this, and I wrote this in my opinion piece, if we are going to survive this, we need to go back to state sovereignty. There are things in the Constitution, and writing this opinion, declaring this would trigger the state self-defense clause, which states that the states have the ability and the constitutional right to be able to defend their citizens in their territory in the event of an active invasion. We have the whole world pouring over that border, and it's not just people, it's drugs, it's violent gang, sex offenders, murderers, like it's the everything, and it's not going to stop. Terrorists. Yes.
We haven't even talked. That's the national security issue. Even when I was there 11 years ago, I interviewed these special interest aliens, we call them SIAs. Oh my goodness. And some of it I can't tell you, and some I'll share with you that they were already there. People from Bangladesh, Somalia, Yemen, Middle East countries. And the same thing happened. Mexico would, obviously the numbers weren't as much as they are now, so Mexico would give them that. It just looked a little different than the one that you showed up, but they give them and said, here, you have 30 days to leave the country. Release them from the detention facility in Mexico, and before you know it, they were in Tijuana asking for asylum. They are there in Mexico. They have communities there, and I'm talking about people that we have absolutely no idea what their intentions are when they do come to this country. That right there alone is a national security issue, that we have no idea that they are infiltrating these communities. The Central Americans and Mexican communities, they speak Spanish, and they come in. Whether they're detected or not, that's another story. I know from the ones that we know that have been detected, the one from Yemen on the no watch list, on the no fly list. Oh my goodness. If we know, we know that they're coming in, and these individuals have cells in this country, the United States of America. And the last thing we want to see is them trying to act on another 9/11, because this is the real focus. This is what people really, on top of, I mean, I don't think you needed another reason with all the other crime and the drugs and the fentanyl. But yes, the big picture is the people around the world do not like us and they want to cause us harm, and they themselves are also using the southern border as a weakness point to enter this country, just like you and I know, they know themselves as well, and they are there. They have formed mosques, they have built mosques, they have built communities, they live there, they've stayed there to recruit their individuals. And after the Taliban and what happened in Afghanistan and that whole debacle, even worse, they've gotten this sense of kind of a revitalization, like we're back.
The sleeper cells are waking up. Yep.
The sleeper cells, the lone
and they're
wolves,
here
whatever.
in our area, the DFW area.
Yes.
And right after we just recently had a terrorist attack in our own area right here at the synagogue. Yep. And that was it was actually an illegal alien. He was not supposed to be here, and it was right here in Colleyville
from Great Britain.
Figure. And the thing is that of course, like the DFW area has always been a hot spot, and I did a whole live video about that a few months ago too. I believe it was in Plano or Frisco where the guy killed the Uber driver, and
yes, the Lyft driver at the Plano Police Department. Yeah,
was an illegal alien. It was a terrorist. They're coming to the Metroplex areas because you know what? There's not much for them to go after or blow up. God forbid, down there in in Roma, Texas. They're coming to the Metroplex areas. And I have a Border Patrol agent friend who called me the day after he called me. He said, I just had a huge group of about almost 50, all from Georgia. And I'm not talking about this, for those who aren't aware, I'm not talking about the state of Georgia.
We're talking about southern Ukraine. Yeah.
Okay. And anyone who fought in the Afghanistan, Iraqi, Iran war, go talk to one of their veterans and ask them how they how Georgians were. Those are some fierce fighters.
And I'll say this word as you talk about that. It's vetting, because we brought all these refugees from Afghanistan. We're humanitarians. The United States is the most compassionate country in the world, and so let's bring them. Let's save them. Let's do it. But if not everyone's good people, not everyone. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of bad people in there. And because of that one bad one, it spoils it for everybody else. So we let in all these Afghanis in. We were putting them in Fort Bliss, Texas. They raped one of our soldiers. They gang raped her, 5 of them. And other crimes. They sexually molested other kids. Vetting. Why don't we vet? Because we don't have the personnel. We don't have the time. Especially, you think we haven't been vetting properly,
and they're defunding ICE,
and then defunding that. Who in the world? Believe me, vetting is a dubious. I used to vet people. It's not a quick thing. It's not a phone call. It's you got to do a lot of background checks, computer checks from their country, your own country. You got to do multiple checks around other law enforcement agencies. It is a huge deal. And it takes hours and hours, and to vet one person, there's no way with thousands coming in that vetting is happening properly. And guess what? We're allowing them to get on an airplane with that little form that they say it's their name, go on in and fly without an ID that you and I cannot do, and then get on your way to Wisconsin or wherever it is you're going.
9/11 never happened.
Oh my God, I've yelled and screamed that, and that they've kind of forgotten. But it's the administration, it's Mayorkas, it's Department of Homeland Security. It comes from there, and I feel so badly for the Border Patrol agents. You and I talked about this last time in Kenny County. Border Patrol agents were crying. We're crying because that's how overwhelmed they are, that they're not allowed to do their job. Waiting happens with this asylum. The asylum right now is, let me tell you, I talk about this in my conferences all the time. The asylum criteria is the same and has been the same for years. It's just the way they interpret it or not want to interpret it. But it's very clearly says in this criteria of 4 or 5 steps that says you have to be persecuted by your government. Plain and simple. Why? Because you have these political views, religious views. In some countries, if you're a member of a certain group, that's it. If that's happening to you, we welcome you. But these people that are coming in, like you just mentioned, you saw their IDs. That's the asylum they were granted in another country.
And yes, and I have IDs from Haitians that lived in Chile and in Brazil for years.
They were granted. asylum
Yes.
already. And so you can't get asylum and then come to the United States and get asylum again. It doesn't
Right.
work that way. But our regime that we have there has, in its lawlessness, has completely ignored all of this. These people do not qualify. That's why the Remain in Mexico policy works so well, because we said, okay, we'll keep you over there, not necessarily Mexico, stay in your country. We'll review to see if in fact
You qualify.
you qualify. Now I hear in the Spanish stations, in the radio Spanish stations that I listen to in the Metroplex, these attorneys saying, if you suffer from family violence and we'll get you a U visa. That is not, that's manipulating the system. Believe me, I worked it. And that doesn't qualify you, because that's not the government doing anything. Yes, you're a victim of a crime. Many people are here too. People tell me there's a lot of crime in Honduras and Guatemala. So go to
Let them go
downtown-
to Chicago.
Go to Chicago.
Let them go to San
Not that far.
Francisco.
Go right here to Dallas.
Say
And
yes.
the shootings that we've had this past weekend is crazy. I mean, it is, and so we have to follow the law. We're a law and order nation. If we follow the asylum law, we follow our law that we have in the books that were legislatively passed by our Congress, by elected officials, this wouldn't be happening. But they have done whatever they wanted, and if it's gonna go like this till November, and you see, they're gonna know, Sheena. They know.
Oh, they will.
that the midterm is coming, and they know that the Democrats are gonna lose, and it's gonna be a red wave and all that. Well, guess who knows? If you and I know, they know, and so they're gonna come. They're gonna come by the hundreds of thousands of millions before time runs out. The time runs out in November.
And somebody here, real quick, also said bringing diseases like smallpox, absolutely, and Ebola, and
flesh eating the diseases. Who was I talking to? Oh my goodness, the kids bring a lot. You talked about, like, in Fort Worth. In Kentucky, they show up. They've never been vaccinated for anything, for the mumps, the measles, polio, stuff that we grew up, at 2, 4, 6, 8 months. Right. They've never gotten any of that. And they come with a lot of health issues that now all of a sudden we pick up the tab because of the health conditions, the school, and then, of course, the criminal justice system, because these 14, 15, 12, 13, 14-year-olds, they're just kids, unaccompanied minors. A lot of them are criminals.
With tattoos. With tattoos.
Yep.
Yeah. So just to go back, guys, it is, and I know that we just dumped and unloaded a whole lot of information, but you know what? It's all true and it's all factual. And I mean, there's for those who really are not in tune with what has really been going on at the border and with what's about to happen. If some of this stuff sounds really scary, just wait until you see it. You will see it. You will see it. And, again, if we're going to survive this, we are where we are because of the failures of both parties, and we need to go back to state sovereignty. So, secure the border. That's what my main focus is. There's a lot of things legislatively that I'm going to be focusing on and hopefully working on to try and get implemented, so that this way we need to be doing all that we can. But that's next legislative session. In the meantime, right now, putting that pressure and just encouraging Paxton. I have it on my website. I also have it on my social media, where you guys can go to the website, securetheborder.us. I've made it super simple and easy for everyone to just kind of take action. It takes all of 2 seconds. This is the call to action. This is where you just click on this, and you can copy and paste it, and then you just fill out these forms and these areas, and then just input the message right there if you need to. I've tried to make it just encourage him. Call. This is the template. It does fall within that 400 minimum or maximum word. You want to know how you can take action? This is one way. Get involved. And of course, I'm constantly pushing action items and trying to put action items out there, things to be on the lookout for on the city and the county levels. And that's my main goal. So with that right there, I just want to encourage people, spread, like, and share the video. Share. You can go straight to the website, straight to the Take Action tab. For those who are not on social media, share it via email, share it, to your friends via text message. It takes 5 minutes to literally, I've done the work for you. Just copy, paste, and send, or pick up the phone. Use your own words, please. That would be even better. And you can use that as a template of what to say. Just encourage them to write that opinion, defining this as an act of invasion. Matt Krause did put out there that letter requesting that specifically. So that's the current action item, because with that in place, constitutionally, the state of Texas, just like Arizona has, and just like any other state who would want to, try to implement this. But here in Texas, we're at the forefront. We're at the physical brunt. This is something that you can do. Be educated and informed, get involved, engaged, and fight back. This is how we fight back. And it does matter. It is election year, right? So right now, let your voice be heard, because they're more liable to listen to their constituents, and what their wishes are, if they, especially during election year. So.
Well, I just want to thank you, Sheena, for everything that you do, and I applaud you for all your efforts, and I support you 100%. And I know that this is real stuff that'll make a difference in the long run. It does. I asked you when we were talking offline, like, who's advising who, because I believe me, I ran this in my career a lot, and even after, when I was in Washington a lot with the meeting with congressmen and all these senators and stuff, and I'm like, well, who's telling you? Well, sometimes they have this 26-year-old kid that doesn't know anything, or these people. I'm like, why don't you have a subject matter expert tell you what's going on? So if I'm not able to go with you Monday or Tuesday, I really keep me posted, because these are the people that should know, and the words that you use there matter to be able to move it forward, right from the committee forward down the line to the next legislative session.
Yes. And during the Senate district conventions, I got my resolution through and passed. So that'll be going to the state convention. Look, I'm flooding them from everywhere, all the way from the bottom up, like literally from everywhere, like a wave. We just need help. Other people who care, that want to know what they can do. Guys, I'm telling you how you can help. So this is one simple way. So thank you so very much. I really appreciate it, Victor. Thank you so much for your time and for all that you do fighting for the state of Texas, and for the country. Really, you and your family, your wife, your beautiful children, you guys have sacrificed personally so much for every single American citizen and every single Texan. And I'm just so grateful and thankful for you and your family and the sacrifices that you guys have made, and you're still carrying on. You're still championing on. So thank you. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me tonight, Sheena.
Thank you. Okay. So guys, I hope that, I know that we unleashed a lot of information on you guys. I'm going to post the link again to the Take Action tab in my website. Guys, I'm tired. I'm sorry. And I'm emotionally drained at this point. It's so much. But guys, really, truly, and honestly, now's the time. Get active, get engaged, get involved, do what you can, let your voice be heard. And if you guys can, I did post my on my website. I do have the donate tab there through my Venmo and my Give Send Go. If you guys can have $5 would be great. I will be going to Austin, and I will be staying there for 2 days, and then hopefully traveling back down there to the border if and when Title 42 gets lifted. Some gas money would be great if you're able to help. So my Venmo and my Give Send Go link and my Buy Me a Coffee link should be in the notes, and it is also on my website at the bottom of the main page. So if you guys will help me, I know not everybody can be out there in Austin. Send me there. Help me get there. So I will be there regardless, even if it costs my own money. So that's what I've been doing this whole year, and I won't stop. So thank you guys so much. And if nothing else, guys, please just send out that action item, get engaged, active, and involved. Find your voice. Join forces with Victor and I, and raising the alarm, and to do all that we can to focus back on state sovereignty. and do all that we can to secure our border and save our Texas. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. God bless you, and God bless our law enforcement and our Border Patrol. So thank you guys. Have a great night.
Tested for COVID.
Yes.
And I had to get a color-coded bracelet.
Yes, like the one I'm wearing.
Yes. And you know who else did that? It's the Mexican cartel.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, and let's go, Brandon.